The invitation arrived 3 weeks before. Join us celebrating Robert Martinez's retirement after 35 years at Morrison Financial Group. Party at the Martinez Estate, 2 p.m. Saturday. The Martinez Estate. My house. At 29, I was a senior investment analyst at Blackstone Capital Management. My annual compensation, $600,000. My clients, tech billionaires and hedge fund managers. My family thought I was an administrative assistant at some financial company. The house they called the Martinez Estate was a 6-bedroom colonial on 3 acres. I'd purchased it 4 years ago for $1.2 million cash. Current value, $1.8 million. My parents had lived there rent-free for 2 years before moving to Florida. They thought the landlord was flexible. They never questioned it. My brother Marcus, 34, had burned through 3 businesses, 2 marriages and most of his trust fund. He lived in a rented townhouse with his 3rd wife, Vanessa, constantly complaining about needing real space. Saturday arrived. I drove my modest Honda. My Tesla and Range Rover stayed in my private downtown garage. Questions about expensive cars would be complicated. The driveway was packed at 1:45 p.m. Catering vans. A bartender on my patio. A DJ in my garden. Inside, Mom directed caterers in the kitchen I'd renovated for $95,000. Dad held court in the living room where I'd restored crown molding for $40,000. Marcus and Vanessa were on the deck, her hand on her baby bump. Sophia. Finally, Mom said. Set up the gift table. No hello. No thank you. Just orders. By 2:30 p.m. the house was packed. Dad's colleagues, Florida neighbors, extended family. Everyone celebrating in my house. At 3 p.m. Dad clinked his glass. Everyone gathered. Thank you all for coming, Dad began. 35 years at Morrison Financial has been an honor. But today isn't just about retirement. It's about family. About legacy. He gestured to Marcus and Vanessa. My son and his wife are expecting my first grandchild. Which brings me to an important announcement. Marcus, Vanessa, this house is yours now. The room erupted. Marcus looked shocked. Vanessa cried. Mom beamed. You're giving them the estate? Someone asked. A retiring man doesn't need this space, Dad said. But Marcus needs room for his family. This house should stay in the Martinez name. Applause. Champagne. Congratulations. I stood still, phone in pocket, silent. The house has been in our family for years, Dad continued. Marcus has been working hard on his business venture. He deserves this stability. Marcus's business venture was day trading cryptocurrency from his couch. When do we move in? Vanessa asked. Immediately, Dad said. I've spoken with property management. Paperwork ready next week. You can start moving this weekend. My Aunt Carmen approached me. Isn't this wonderful? Your brother finally getting success. Wonderful, I said flatly. Uncle Raymond joined us. Your father is so generous. Not every man would give away such valuable property. I excused myself to my office and texted my attorney. Need you at my house. No. Emergency. Catherine Morrison replied. Address? I sent it. 20 minutes. I returned to the party. Marcus was giving tours, pointing out where his office would go, where the nursery would be, which walls he'd demolish for open concept. My walls. Original 1920s construction I'd specifically preserved. Vanessa was in the kitchen discussing renovations. We'll gut this whole kitchen. Make it modern. The kitchen I'd spent $95,000 renovating with period details. That clawfoot tub is so outdated, she added. The tub I'd restored for $12,000. Dad found me. Sophia, you're quiet. Aren't you happy for your brother? Should I be? Family supports family. Marcus needs this more than anyone. Do I understand you gave away a house worth $1.8 million? He laughed. Always with numbers. That's why you're good at that assistant job. But this is about family, not finances. At 3:42 p.m. Catherine Morrison arrived. Partner at Sterling & Associates, the city's most prestigious real estate law firm. Designer suit, expensive briefcase. He found me in the foyer. Ms. Martinez? I have the documentation. Nearby conversations stopped. Who's this? Mom asked, approaching with Dad and Marcus. Catherine Morrison. My attorney. The room went quiet. Your attorney? Dad frowned. What's this about? Property ownership, Catherine said. There seems to be confusion. No confusion, Dad said. This is the Martinez family home. I'm gifting it to my son. Do you have documentation proving ownership? A deed. I don't need documentation. We've lived here for years. Actually, Catherine opened her briefcase, you lived here as guests. You never owned this property. She spread documents on the gift table. Hold up. This is the property deed, Catherine pointed. Owner, Sophia Martinez. Purchased 4 years ago for $1.2 million, cash payment, no mortgage. Dead silence. Marcus grabbed it. Impossible. Sophia doesn't have that money. Wire transfer receipts. Full payment from Ms. Martinez's investment accounts. No loan. No co-signers. Sole owner. Dad went pale. But this is our house. You rented your previous home, Catherine explained. When those owners sold, Ms. Martinez purchased this property. She invited you to live here rent-free for 2 years before you moved to Florida. Mom sat on the stairs. You bought a house at 25? I had the capital. Property tax records for 4 years, Catherine continued. All paid by Sophia Martinez. Insurance, utilities, renovation permits totaling $340,000. New roof, electrical, kitchen, bathroom, landscaping. All paid by Ms. Martinez. Vanessa's face crumbled. But Mr. Martinez just said this was Marcus's. Mr. Martinez cannot give away property he doesn't own. Uncle Raymond stepped forward. Sophia, where did you get over $1 million at 25? I'm a senior investment analyst at Blackstone Capital Management. I manage portfolios worth hundreds of millions. My base salary is $425,000. With bonuses, I exceed $600,000 annually. I've been there since 23. You said you were an administrative assistant, Aunt Carmen protested. No. You assumed that. I said I worked at a financial firm. You heard what you wanted. Dad found his voice. You never told us you were successful. You never asked. Every dinner was about Marcus's next idea. When I mentioned work, you'd say, that's nice, and change subjects back to Marcus. Marcus's face reddened. You've been secretly rich? That's manipulative. I wasn't secret. I was quiet. There's a difference. Catherine pulled out more documents. Ms. Martinez maintained records of financial support. A $35,000 loan to Marcus for his first business, never repaid. A $20,000 loan to her parents for property taxes, never repaid. A $15,000 loan for Marcus's second wedding, never repaid. You said those were gifts, Marcus protested. I said they were loans with repayment plans. You chose to forget. One of Dad's colleagues spoke up. Robert, you worked in finance 35 years. You didn't verify ownership before giving away a house. Dad flushed. I assumed. You assumed wrong, I said. Like you assumed I'd be fine with you hosting your party here without asking. Like you assumed I'd be thrilled to hear you give my property to Marcus. We're family. Mom said. Family shares. Family asks permission. Family respects boundaries. Family doesn't announce property transfers without consulting the actual owner. Catherine checked her watch. Ms. Martinez, do you want to proceed with the trespass notice? Electric tension. Trespass notice? Vanessa whispered. Ms. Martinez is sole owner. Everyone present is here without explicit permission for a purpose that included announcing illegal transfer of property. You'd kick us out? Dad asked, shocked. During my retirement party? You tried to give away my house during your retirement party. Without asking. Without confirming you had the right. Marcus stepped forward. Sophia, don't be dramatic. Dad made a mistake. How do we fix it? Let you move in anyway? Let Vanessa gut my kitchen? Watch you demolish original walls. It's just a house. It's my house. That I bought. That I paid for. That I renovated. That I own. Revelation. One of Dad's colleagues cleared his throat. Robert, you owe your daughter an apology. Dad stared at the documents. How did we not know? Mom asked. How did we not see you were this successful? You didn't want to see it. You wanted me to be the supportive daughter who admired Marcus. Who didn't outshine him. who stayed in her lane. That's not fair, Marcus protested. Isn't it? When did anyone ask about my career? My achievements? Last Thanksgiving I mentioned closing a $50 million deal. Mom asked me to pass potatoes. Dad asked Marcus about cryptocurrency, which lost him $8,000 that I loaned him. Catherine interjected, Ms. Martinez, I have the formal eviction notice. Given 50-plus guests, we can handle this quietly or publicly. Eviction. Someone gasped. Everyone's on private property without owner consent. Ms. Martinez can require everyone to leave immediately. Dad looked at me. Sophia, you can't be serious. These are our friends, family, colleagues. They're your guests at my house. You invited them without asking. Vanessa was crying. We have nowhere to go. We gave notice on our townhouse. Silence. You gave notice? I repeated. Without verifying ownership? Marcus looked sick. Dad said it was definite. He said paperwork was a formality. There is no paperwork, Catherine said. Your father has no legal standing. Marcus, Uncle Raymond said, please tell me you didn't actually give notice. The landlord has new tenants moving in next week, Vanessa sobbed. Catherine turned to me. How would you like to proceed? I looked at the faces. Dad's humiliation. Mom's tears. Marcus's panic. Vanessa's devastation. Everyone has 1 hour to leave. Take your equipment, decorations, gifts. Catherine will ensure peaceful evacuation. Sophia, Dad started. Mr. Martinez, Catherine interrupted, I strongly suggest you comply. The alternative is police involvement and trespassing charges. People moved. Guests gathering belongings, making excuses. Caterers packing. DJ disconnecting. Marcus approached. Where are we supposed to go? Vanessa's 5 months pregnant. You should have thought about that before giving notice based on Dad's fantasy. You're 34, Marcus. When were you planning to verify things yourself? We're siblings. Then you should have treated me like one. Not like a supporting character in Dad's announcement. He left. My parents approached last. Dad's party had dissolved into humiliated guests streaming out, whispering. I don't understand how this happened, Dad said. It happened. You assumed you had power you didn't. You announced you were giving away something never yours. Publicly, dramatically, without verification. We raised you, Mom said. Doesn't that count? It counts for 18 years of childhood. Not for ownership of a $1.8 million property I purchased with my own money. What do we tell people? Dad asked. Tell them the truth. You tried to give away your daughter's house without asking. You didn't know she was successful because you never bothered to find out. They left, Dad's retirement joy destroyed. Resolution. Catherine stayed another hour documenting everything. Photos, guest list, formal trespass notice filed with police. Quite the revelation, she said. I feel lighter. I've been carrying their assumptions for years. I called my property manager. Security upgrades. Cameras, new locks, gate codes changed. Quote by Monday. Then I called colleagues from Blackstone. Impromptu dinner at my place? Fair warning, weird day. They came with wine and laughter. Conversations about markets and investments. They celebrated my space, my success, my autonomy. Over the next week I learned what happened. Marcus and Vanessa moved into her parents' one-bedroom guest house. Marcus's home office became a bedroom corner. Vanessa's parents were furious their pregnant daughter was living in a guest house because Marcus trusted his father without verification. Dad's party became legendary at Morrison Financial for the embarrassing property fiasco. Colleagues quietly distanced themselves. Mom stopped posting family photos. Too many questions about what happened. Marcus texted, Dad's retirement is ruined because of you. I replied, Dad's retirement is ruined because of Dad. Catherine sent demand letters for unpaid loans. $70,000 with interest. Marcus threatened to fight. She sent transaction records with loan in memo lines. He stopped responding. 3 months later, Dad emailed, Can we talk? I replied, You publicly announced you were giving my $1.8 million house to Marcus without asking, verifying ownership, or considering I might have rights. That's what happened. Silence. 6 months after, the house hit $1.95 million. The kitchen alone appraised at $140,000. I hosted Thanksgiving that year. Blackstone colleagues and families. My property manager. Catherine and her partner. People who celebrated my success instead of redistributing it. Uncle Raymond called to apologize. I should have questioned things. I knew something wasn't right. You were the only one who hesitated. A year passed. Marcus and Vanessa bought a modest starter home, smaller than the mansion Dad tried to give them but legally theirs. Dad's retirement wasn't the triumph he'd planned. It was the cautionary tale about assumptions that people still discussed at Morrison Financial. Sometimes I walked past that living room and remembered the shocked faces when Catherine revealed the truth. They'd assumed I was small, unsuccessful, someone whose property could be redistributed. The title records told a different story. So did the wire transfers. So did the renovation receipts. My father spent 35 years in finance. He should have known to verify ownership. He didn't. That mistake, public, humiliating, irreversible, cost him his retirement celebration, his son's housing stability, and his relationship with his daughter. The property records didn't lie. His assumptions did. And those assumptions were more expensive than he ever imagined. The following months brought more revelations. Dad's Morrison Financial colleagues began distancing themselves professionally. Several investment clients quietly transferred to other advisors, uncomfortable with someone who'd publicly failed at basic due diligence. His retirement consulting opportunities, the part-time work he'd planned, dried up almost immediately. People don't trust my judgment anymore, he admitted to Uncle Raymond, who told me later. I worked 35 years building credibility. Gone in one afternoon. Marcus's situation deteriorated further. Vanessa's parents demanded he pay rent for the guest house, $1,800 monthly. His cryptocurrency business continued losing money. He eventually took a job at a call center, the first traditional employment he'd held in 6 years. The baby arrived in March. They named her Sophia, Vanessa's choice, apparently an olive branch I never asked for. I sent a gift card. No visit. No relationship to rebuild. Mom tried monthly emails. Guilt disguised as updates. Your father's health isn't good. The stress affected him. As if his stress was my responsibility. As if humiliation was worse than theft. Aunt Carmen's Facebook posts evolved from ungrateful children to pointed articles about family estrangement and unforgiving daughters. I never responded. Her $1,200 catering invoice remained unpaid. Catherine added it to the collection file. The house continued appreciating. I refinanced at a lower rate despite having no mortgage. Strategic financial planning. The appraisal came back at $2.1 million. In 4 years, I'd gained $900,000 in equity plus $340,000 in renovations. Total asset value, $1.24 million profit. Marcus would have destroyed that value in 5 years. I hired a property historian to document the house's 1920s origins. Published a small book about its architecture. Donated copies to the local historical society with my name clearly listed as owner and preservationist. Dad's retirement party lived in local memory, but now my name was connected to something else. Historic preservation, architectural integrity, successful young woman in finance. The narrative shifted from ungrateful daughter to impressive young investor.